to the story, but let's take a listen.
Encounter was when I was
The judge.
so my first encounter was when I was a juvenile, which it wasn't nothing out of the ordinary because like I was put on like a juvenile probation and then I went to juvie. So then later on in life when I become of age, um, I was on drugs and stuff, and I ended up doing some time in jail. And in 2019, I went and decided to get clean and go through the ARC program. And he kind of personally reached out to me within those times, like helping me, telling me he was proud and stuff. But then an indication that kind of alarmed me to know that all the rumors I heard my whole life about him is he invited me to this seminar in March of 2021, a drug seminar while I was in rehab, basically to tell a little bit of like my story. And he was just trying to like, I guess, make me like a poster child. I don't know, but he was just trying to share my story and stuff. But he was just very weird during that. Like before, he was just very inappropriate, to me.
Like what happened?
So let's hear what happened first.
Was he calling you?
Yeah. He just told me like if I ever needed anything, just to come to his chambers. Like if I ever got in trouble, that I could come and talk to him. But like us women know what that means. You know what I'm saying?
So that's her personal experience with the judge, and to me, I don't think that would be something that would be allowable in a criminal case. Obviously, the defense might want to bring that up, like talking about the bad character of the victim. I don't think it's something that's relevant. I think there's some speculation in there. She's kind of making inferences that, he said this and we women know what that means. Maybe not enough to even get to it if that character evidence even would be appropriate for this trial when talking about the victim, right? I just don't think anything she said about her own personal encounters with the judge would be relevant in this criminal case. Now, what they will do is in the court of public opinion, she and another witness we're going to hear from, it makes the judge look like the bad guy, the victim look like the bad guy. And we've seen that in a lot of high profile cases recently and in the past. And what do you do as a prosecutor when the victim starts to look like the bad guy and then the defendant starts to look like the good guy? Is that what's happening here? You guys tell me from your perspective in the public, is that what's happening here? Or not? And that, because it's possible they're both bad guys, right? And they're both defendants in the civil lawsuit and they turned on each other, and bad guys can turn on each other too. So, it's these kinds of public sentiments, I think, that some of these interviews, and I think people in the community know a lot more about this case than the rest of the country, and the rest of us are just getting a look in as to how bad it really was.
And he just made me feel very uncomfortable. He just looked at me like a dog. But most of my story is my mom too, that's why.
So now she's going to get into her mom's story and her mom's encounter with the judge. And we know that if she is going to, Jenny said, sorry, Peter, women get a sense when the guy is behaving inappropriately. That's fine. I'm not saying that's not true. That's not what I meant by that comment. What I'm saying is I do not think that version of events she just spoke about to Brian Entin is something that a prosecutor would use from a witness. I don't think, or even the defense, if they wanted to get it in about the judge, I don't think either side is going to use that from a witness. I don't think it would be considered reliable. That's my opinion. I believe it'd be speculation, legally speaking. That's it. Okay. Not to mention inappropriate character evidence of the victim, but we don't need to get into all of that. Okay. So now she's going to talk about her mom's story, which again, who would be the best person to testify about this? Obviously her mom. Her testifying about this is hearsay. Could there be an exception? Her mom has passed away. And if there's an unavailable declarant, sometimes you can get information in through another witness. It may be something worth arguing, but again, I'm not so sure this is something that would come up unless Mickey Stines said, I was in fear that he was going to do this to me, or he told me he was going to do this to somebody else. I had to stand in their shoes. It gets kind of murky. You're having to kind of jump steps to get this in. So again, I think it'd be difficult to get this story in, but again, it does shed light and provide context as to what's going on. And is this going to be a sympathetic victim? And what is the state going to be able to argue about who this victim was and the position he was sitting in? Because you would think a judge, a sitting judge who's doing a lot of good and fighting for justice and making sure that only just results are coming from his courtroom would be a pretty sympathetic and likable victim.
I was reaching out because my mom had a lot. She's no longer here anymore, but my mom had the sexual stuff with him and all that.
When you say she's not here, did she pass away or? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
actually, she done a lot of jail time. She was actually a drug addict, but she actually passed away. She didn't even get to come home. The Letcher County jail didn't take care of her at all while she was sick.
She was
But
sent to
like the
jail.
beginning of like her drug, like she used to go have sex with the judge to get out of trouble. I remember she got my dad in some very big trouble. She went and had sex with the judge. You know, when people are on drugs.
So that's definitely not, a paid for transaction necessarily, like some of the other people may make it seem like. This seems like specifically the judge was using his power and position, according to this witness and her mom, that he was using that position to manipulate these women into performing these acts with him. So that's, the context is important as to how we get there.
They're so numb and people don't like going to jail and stuff. I mean, I'm sure it upset her from all the drugs and all the abuse and trauma that my mom went through. Like she was not in the right state of mind at all. She was very traumatized from a lot of stuff that has been done to her. I do know that. My grandparents actually raised me, so like my mom was in and out of my life a lot too when I was younger.
How well known was it that, if you had sex with the judge, you could get out of things?
Very well known. Like every girl, like everybody knows that. Even with lawyers too. It's not just the judges. It's like a lot of people that's done this for years. Like
So a lot of people have known this for years, which that leads me to believe who's going to be a witness in this case? How widespread is this going to be? How powerful are the people involved going to be? Will we hear from other lawyers and judges and law enforcement in the case about what was going on? And again, a lot of this, where to me it's helpful to Mickey Stines. A lot of the updates we're going to give today are helpful to Mickey Stines because we know he's trying to prove a mental break. He's trying to prove some kind of diminished capacity. He's trying to get a lesser charge than what he's currently charged with, right? Which is the intentional homicide, which we've all seen the video and it looks bad and it looks intentional and it looks like he deserves the utmost charge and penalty. But a lot of these updates are starting to inch us towards the defendant's argument, not that he's going to get off, not that he's going to go home, but that maybe a lesser charge is more appropriate, which was very difficult to fathom when you just watch that video with no audio, right? Think back to when you first saw that video. What did you think happened? Seems like an open and shut case. Like, what are we talking about? There's nothing for a lawyer to break down. It's shocking, yeah. But then you get into the intricacies of the law and how you get to a lesser included in Kentucky and what arguments they need to make. And to me, the more people are involved, the more everybody knows how it is, like this witness is saying, cops and judges and lawyers, everybody knew how it was. If you don't want to be a part of it and you want to step out from it, or you're caught in the crosshairs of the civil lawsuit and you feel all the walls come tumbling down on top of you of everybody else's sins, and you're like, I was the sheriff. Now, did you turn a blind eye? Did you have a hand in it? I don't know. But you start to feel that pressure and that causes you to break. Well, maybe now we are looking at a different charge as the more appropriate charge.
Well, it's been over decades that this stuff has really been going on. With my memo, yes, because
did nobody have a duty to report? Tons of people had duties to report this. Just because you have a duty to report doesn't mean you're going to, right?
I know this sounds weird and stuff. I was needing to get an expungement, and my memo was really trying to put me up to go see Judge Mullins just to get me out of my expungement. But families know that stuff too. I don't know if all families do that with their kids, but I mean, like my mama was trying to get me just so I could, have a better life and stuff. Like families are aware of this stuff now. I don't know if they've ever, put them up to do stuff like that, but from my personal experience, like, yeah.
What would your mama say?
She'd just be like, "Oh, you just need to go see Kevin Mullins, and he'll fix it for you. You just need to go down there and see him." And stuff like she knew I didn't want to go, and she knew that I could go. I really try to keep I'm only 29. I've been in a lot. I've lived a hard life, and I really try to not do bad anymore. So that's kind of why I never after rehab and all that. That's why I never really went back, because I don't really want to live like that no more.
With the drugs, like so many people, it seems like in that area have had issues with drugs. Like, how do you describe it? Like, how do people get sucked in?
It's a very small area. There isn't nothing to do. You really have to have an education to even have any money there. You know, the coal mines used to be like a lot of income for people back in the day, but I think people get sucked into it because there's nothing to do. It's very small, and you know, generational curses. Families do it. You know, moms and dads there do drugs with their kids there. It's just it's crazy. So I just think that it's just a lot of nothing to do there. Families just not knowing any better to do, just nothing to do there.
What do you mean by generational curses?
I just feel like, so I'm really big in my faith. I'm not going to say like I'm a Christian. I am a Christian, but I have a bigger relationship with God than whatever. So I just think that there's a lot of generational curses there. You know, a lot of.
Yeah, okay. I see some people. This is not the sheriff's daughter. This is a different person who claims to be a victim of the judge, and her mom was a victim of the judge, and everybody knew what it was like there. The victim's daughter. We're going to watch a clip from her next. I'll make it clear when it's the sheriff's daughter. This is not the sheriff's daughter.
My story, my mom and dad both done drugs with me. They weren't very motherly or fatherly to me. So that's a lot of what happens back there. I just think that it just goes back, and I just think my generation is cursed a little bit. I know that sounds crazy, but that stuff is real.
So people actually do drugs with their parents.
Yes.
You did that.
Yes.
I guess it's hard to know right from wrong then if you're doing it with your,
Yeah, like, well, I grew up seeing my mom and dad do it my whole life.
And these are, generational issues. And again, these are things that create so many problems in society and in certain communities. Doesn't make it right what anybody else did to victimize them. It doesn't make what they did right, and their part in it, and committing crimes and then trying to get at them by committing other crimes. And they were vulnerable and not in positions to even stand up for themselves because of the positions of power. And that's why they still are victims. But there are some, we have a lot of civil cases where there are unsympathetic victims or victims that have their own issues that jurors are not going to like. And you're kind of seeing an illustration of that with this person.
So I was like, well, if my mom and dad is doing that, well, it's okay for me to do it. My mama and papa did raise me right. Like, my mama and papa were very successful. They raised me with right morals, but it didn't fill the void of them being my mom and dad. So it made me very rebellious. And then I thought that, I started doing drugs when I was 16. That's when my grandmother let me start kind of having a relationship with my mom, because she knew that it was hard on me all these years without her. And like, I just started doing drugs with her because I thought, like, well, maybe she might love me now. I don't know. It's just weird.
What kind of drugs?
At first it started out like as drinking and weed, and then pills like Xanaxes, pain pills. I got on Suboxone really bad. I did abuse that at first. And then by the time I was 18, meth started coming in the area. And that thank God I didn't get on no fentanyl or anything. I went to rehab before that stuff came there. But weed, it was alcohol, weed, pills, and then meth.
Did you
And then
ever
all of it together.
did you ever know the sheriff? Sheriff Stines?
Yes, Mickey. Yes. He was actually the bailiff for like 20 years in Kevin's court. He was a very good man.
What did you think when you
So all that about the judge, and obviously Mickey Stines and the victim had a very long relationship together, but she says Mickey Stines was a very good man.
heard that he shot the judge?
I thought he was losing his mind. I didn't know what was going on.
I'm joined now by Al.
She thought he was losing his mind. So isn't that interesting? Because there's a lot of questions around, obviously, his mental state at the time. So very, very sad. I think that there were a lot of lives affected by a lot of things going on there. And I think this is just scratching the surface. And everybody that has spoken out about it said there's so much more. Everybody knew about it. This affected so many different cases. Ashley said, who's investigating all these allegations? It's a great question. It's a great question. Somebody needs to, that's for sure. Does this not call into question all of the previous trials? So I don't know what kind of judge Mullins was, or if he had trials, or what effect he had, but a lot of times he was letting people off that shouldn't have gotten off, which is different than making sure people go to prison if they don't deserve to go to prison. So, I don't know how this will affect prior cases that he was involved in. Are the judges there appointed or elected? I think in Kentucky they're elected. You can always have a judge appointed to, like when there's a vacancy, but I believe they're elected in Kentucky. Okay, so now we're going to jump to the video of Mickey Stein's daughter.